And is it better to motivate, just to follow up on what you're saying there, is it better to motivate based on the individual, or are there some key tools that leadership and management can implement as an organization to maintain that engagement and motivation?
So motivation, I suppose, at its core is an experience of the individual. So the individual feels motivated or doesn't feel motivated or is motivated by particular things. But of course, the environment or context in which they are, as we've talked about, can lead to the different types of motivation. And so even what we refer to as intrinsic motivation, or that internal source of motivation, is about doing something you enjoy. And so ultimately, we want to design workplaces and we want to design work so that people are doing more of what they enjoy and less of what they don't enjoy, within reason, of course. There's always going to be things in our work that we enjoy less, that we have to do. And so what we know as being very good practice, and is in a very, since the 70s, one of the very important ways of conceptualizing motivation has been through the design of work. And so back in the 70s, Hackman and Ullman developed a model of job design, which, through the decades has been modified and changed and updated and so on, but is still really one of the very important ways in which we can design work so that it is good for people's well-being, is motivating and encourages them to perform well. And typically, I suppose the one way of looking at summarizing it is around what Sharon Parker calls smart work design. So that's work that's stimulating, that requires mastery, so it's challenging for us, allows us to use our skills and so on, gives us agency or some control or choice over how we do our work and so on, is relational. So there's a social component to it in terms of how, good quality relationships, and has tolerable work demands. And of course, that is a really important thing in terms of, that people's workload are managed appropriately, that they're not asked to do too much. But there is an optimum level. So, a job that isn't demanding enough is a boring job. So we talk about this idea of balancing the challenge or the demands of a job with the resources that somebody has to do the job. And so the resources come from having, an interesting job with control over how you do it, and all those other things that make up that SMART acronym in work design.
And when you mention agency, Deirdre, is that the same as autonomy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.